this should be quick. It's just an overview of using the EC2 dashboard and I guess this console here. The console is sort of minimal in this, but this is the AWS Educate interface. So to get to the console, I need to log into AWS Educate and then click on the management console. And as you can see here, within the console, I have step-by-step things that I can build. And I have, these are also somewhat step-by-step for learning. And what I really want to do here is, since I've already launched a VM, so you can read through this if you want to, but since I've already launched a VM, what I want to do is I want to use the EC2, I want to look at the EC2 dashboard. So this is the dashboard for running instances, and EC2 is, so EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, and essentially what we do in there, it's like having a virtual machine, and we can launch whatever we want on it. And we pay, it's a kind of a pay-per-use thing. So it's the abstraction layer between us and the hardware for running a lot of things. And we're going to run VMs. So as you can see here, I have 2 VMs. And this is the dashboard that I'm going to use the most. So with these VMs, what I would do is I would select one, and then I can look at the details for the VM. So down here, I've got some details. So this is the instance ID. Notice it matches here. It's running right now. I have a public IP and a public DNS for IP version 4. And then I also have private for IP version 4. These are for the virtual private cloud. We're not going to look at that right now. And then I have this error. So this the error is because I'm running AWS Educate and there's certain things I cannot do. And then I have some details about the instance. Notice it detects that it thinks it's Ubuntu. It's not entirely sure. And this is the AMI, so the image that was used to launch it. And then some when it was launched and where the AMI is, and then various information about it. And then we have security. So security is one of the things that we will need to manipulate as we add services to our system. So in this case, I have a system that has port 80. So this is exactly like a firewall rules that you would set up with IP tables. So what I have here is anything incoming that's destined for port 80 from anywhere will be allowed. Port 22 from anywhere will be allowed, and I'm allowing all outgoing. So if I want to run any other services on here, I would have to click on this security group and then edit the inbound rules. So let's say, for example, that I want to add a rule for, I have an application that's running on 8765. So I want to add a rule for that. It's running on TCP, and I'm going to say it's coming from anywhere. So this is a security thing that we may or may not want to we may want to say, okay, this application can only be used from Dawson's external IP. But in this case, we want it to come from anywhere. So I'm going to save the rules. And there I have a new set of rules. So now it's also port 8765. So now what I want to do is I want to go back to here and check my instances again. So the security now, whoops, let me reload the security here. Oops. My security rules now show 8765, but the outbound hasn't changed. So, and then there's networking, which has most of the information we see in the main details, but it also shows us for our network interfaces, we can have multiple interfaces, and we're not using elastic IPs. I'm not going to talk about that right now. And then there's the storage we're using. We just use the default storage. This stands for Elastic Beanstalk Storage. It's just the name that's used by Amazon. And we have it's shown to our VM as a serial device, the first serial device with one partition. It's attached. We can add more. We can do things with volumes if we want. And then there's some status checks that are done on startup, reachability for the instance and the system. And then there's some monitoring that's going on here that I may or may not want to look at. So if I'm having problems, this is where I would play with it. And I can also add it to the dashboard. So I can have a CloudWatch dashboard. But there's certain things that, like I said, we can't use with AWS Educate. So this may be useful if you notice there's a problem. So you can take a look at it occasionally. Notice there was a bit of a dip here when I was accessing the system, probably. I asked to access my website. And then there's some tags. So that's pretty much everything on here. Oh, we also have we also can manipulate instance state. So for the selected instance, I can stop it, reboot it, or terminate it. Or if it's stopped, I can start it. And then there's a series of actions. I can connect to it, but this will connect over I can connect to it if I'm not using AWS Educate. Unfortunately, if I try to do it with AWS Educate, I get policy denied. So Session Manager, I also can't use. SSH Client, this is just instructions. We've already set that up. And then there's the EC2 Serial Console, which is also not available. So none of these are available to us. We just have to use our SSH connection. So if we go back to the instances that we're running, I can also stop them. Let's say I want to stop the first one. So what I do is I stop the instance. And I say, yes, stop. So it will take a minute to start updating it. And then eventually it'll show successfully stopped. And if once this refreshes, it hasn't refreshed this yet. So let's see what's going on. Oh, sorry, let me unclick this. So here, now it shows stop. So it takes a little while to update this. So we can stop, and now I can also start it if I want to. Oops, sorry, wrong place. I can start the instance. So I can manipulate the instance from here. So this gives me some control over my instance. And that's kind of an overview of the EC2 dashboard. Hopefully it was helpful.